This is the Minister's Crucible. I'm Fred Rochester. Thanks for listening. Where do we get 7 years from? And that's a lot of information, but we're going to try to condense it to where we can all understand it. In the book of Daniel, chapter 9, beginning at verse 1, in the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, of the lineage of the Medes, who was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans, in the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by the books the number of the years specified by the word of the Lord through Jeremiah the prophet, that he, God, would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem. Now remember, when the children of Israel failed to keep the Sabbaths, the peace of the land, which is recorded in the book of Leviticus chapter 25, we see that the Lord exiled the children of Israel to the land of Babylon for 70 years. This is also explained in the book of 2 Chronicles chapter 36, and also in the book of Daniel chapter 9. And so Daniel understood by the word of the Lord given to Jeremiah the prophet that the desolations of Jerusalem would be for 70 years. So the Lord uses this 70 years of exile to indicate to the prophet Daniel about how long the exodus or the exile of the children of Israel would last, but the Lord would use this to indicate to Daniel that 70 weeks would be determined for the people. In fact, let's begin reading in verse 20 of Daniel chapter 9. Now, while I was speaking, praying, and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, and presented my supplication before the Lord my God for the holy mountain of my God, yes, while I was speaking in prayer, the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, reached me about the time of the evening's offering. And he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I have now come forth to give you skill to understand. At the beginning of your supplications, the command went out, and I have come to tell you, for you are greatly beloved. Therefore, consider the matter and understand the vision. Verse 24, 70 weeks are determined for your people. 70 weeks. Now, if it were literally 70 weeks, then it would be quick, fast, and in a hurry. But we all know that within Bible scholar and Bible prophecy, that there is symbology spoken of here. And so weeks is considered years. So let's continue reading. 70 weeks are determined for your people and for your holy city, to finish the transgressions, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. We all know that 7 plus 62 is 69. So that leaves 1 week left. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublesome times. And after 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. This is considered the point in which Jesus was crucified. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end of it shall be with a flood, and till the end of the war desolations are determined. From the time that Christ died, there were constant wars in Jerusalem, and there is no temple because of what Jesus prophesied in the book of Matthew, chapter 24 and verse 3, where verse 2 rather, where he said, "Do you see these stones? There will not be one stone left on top of another." This took place in AD 70. Can you see the theme here of 70, 70, and 70? Just resounding, isn't it? Then, or remarkable, I should say. Then in verse 27, then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. Now we all know that 1 week is 7 days. But here, this is symbolic language. 7 days is 7 years. But in the middle of the week, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate. So the middle of the week is Wednesday. So what we would consider in terms of symbology here is that at 3.5 years. So at the 3.5 year point is the abomination of desolations that Jesus spoke of in Matthew chapter 24 and verse number 3. He says, and when you see the abomination of desolations standing in the holy place, the abomination of desolation is mentioned by Daniel, and Daniel mentions this also in the book of Daniel chapter 12. So at the middle of the week, this is where the abomination of desolation takes place, and Jesus also calls this great tribulation. So I know that in the Bible Prophecy Community, there is a lot of people that frowned upon calling the entire 7 years the Great Tribulation, knowing that there are other scriptures that point to the fact that it will be at the middle of the week where the Great Tribulation will begin. So we don't call it, we try not to call it tribulation. We try not to call it Great Tribulation. We try to call it 70 weeks, and this is the final week of the 70th week. And so that should be sufficient information. We'll be discussing this further in other teachings along these lines, so that way we can get a full understanding of where the 7 years come from. You've been listening to The Minister's Crucible. I'm Fred Rochester. Thanks for listening.